guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm the City Witch. Today's video is on the subject of books for Animal Magic and totems. Now this is quite a large subject in the craft, and what I'm going to do is split it into two videos. So this video is just purely on the books and the reading material I found helpful and useful for my path in developing my craft. I'm going to do a second video on Animal Magic, spirit guides, totems and your spiritual animal family as well, and I'm going to try and break it down into the different ones, how I actually found out about mine, and then I might even talk to you a little bit about shapeshifting as well, but that might be a third video. We'll see how we get on, guys. So as I say, in this one it's going to be about the books, the reading material that I recommend. So I'm going to do the same thing I normally do. I'm going to run through the books one at a time, talk to you about the author and the content within the book. I'm going to give you a sneak peek at the books as well, tell you whether I enjoyed the book or not, if it's something I use on a regular basis, and score it from 1 to 10. So let's look at the first book, shall we? So the first book is this one. So this is Pocket Guide to Spirit Animal Magic. So this is a really simple book. Let's see if I can give you a better look there, guys. It's quite small, but it is quite thick, so it contains a lot of content. It only costs $6.99 to buy, so that's pretty reasonable, guys. And there's a number of ways that I have used this, and it is frayed, so I use it quite a lot. So firstly, the way it's laid out kind of looks like this. I'll show you. So you get a picture of the animal, and then you get information about the animal as well. The information, when you read it, is wrote as if it's a message from that animal, so you do kind of have to take it on board a little bit. So just to give you an example, one of the animals that was on this page was the fox. So if you were getting symbols from the fox, or a fox entered your dreams and you wanted to look it up, so the fox meaning would be trust your intuition and be wary of someone you're involved with who's attempting to trick you in some way. Your intelligence and ingenuity are more useful right now than confrontation and righteousness. It's better for you to remain in the background and expert and influence from that position than to take an active leadership role. It's best to blend into your surroundings, move with stealth, and keep your intentions to yourself. It's important at this time to break out of your social conditioning and express yourself more freely. So there's a few different messages there. So how I personally have found this book useful is when I want a message from the animals, or I want some guidance on something, I hold the book in my hand just like so. I will think about a situation and all the feelings and all the people involved with that, and then I will formulise my question in my head, and then as I focus on my question I will kind of flip through. I might do it a number of times to get a feel, and then when I have an instinct to stop, I will open the book. Now at this point there are actually, let me show you, a number of choices on this page, so I can choose from the antelope, the gazelle, or the, I can't pronounce, Gnu? I think it's Gnu. So what I would do at that point was probably hover my hand like so, and I'm quite drawn here, so the antelope would be the one I would look at, and then I would read the messages on that, think about my question, think about the situation, and apply the message given to me from that animal to that. And if I don't understand it, I'll make a note of it and I'll contemplate it later on, or maybe go back to the page and read it again, or as the situation is developing, then read it again, and maybe I'll go, aha, I now know what it means. And that will be the message or the divination for that situation. And that's how I like to use this book, but that's the way I've adapted to use it. In this book, just to give you an idea of the content, you get an introduction, spirits and animal spirit guides, and then you get a full list of animals, and that's quite a large list, guys. There's almost four or 5 pages worth here. And at the end you get organisations that support animals, acknowledgements, and a little bit about the author as well. The writing style's really nice. I really like the artwork within it. I'm enjoying looking at the animals. There are a few animals in here which are mythical as well. So you've got a page on unicorns, for example. There is also dragons in here, I believe. So I like that about it. I like that they incorporated some extra factors in it like that, and some mythical creatures. So you could literally go from your dreams and interpret your dreams with animals and spirit guides and totems in it with this. So I did really enjoy that book. I would easily score this quite high, probably about a 9 or even a 10 out of 10, because I use it quite regular. I refer to it quite a lot. I use it in conjunction with a lot of my animal oracle decks as well. They don't actually match this, but sometimes if I want a bit more information, this is better. I find the information is clearer to understand, and the way it's worded is really simple as well. So often when I'm deciphering readings or I'm doing something for myself and I have a message come through, I refer to this as an extra backup on that animal as well. So, excellent book, guys. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is very specific to one type of animal. I did at one point own one of these myself, so I thought I was going to keep this book. And I didn't, it was gifted to me actually, if I'm honest, and I didn't really think I was going to enjoy it, but it is by one of my favourite writers, and I thoroughly 110% enjoyed this book. This book I thought was fab, it's really interesting, so much information in it. So it is The Enchanted Cat. Ta-da! So as I say, I owned a cat at one point. I wouldn't choose to own one again, if I'm honest. I'm definitely more of a dog person. I learned that about myself. But I love this book. This helped me connect to my cat in ways I didn't know I could, helped me utilise her in my craft as well, recognise signs and divinations that she was giving me on a regular basis. So I built a relationship with my cat and bonded with her better because of this book. And this book was bought for me at the time I actually got my cat, so I felt like the person who bought it for me kind of went, oh, this would be quite fun. She's a witch, she's got a cat now, let's kind of get her an interesting book. And as I say, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but I love this book. I think it's great. So I'm going to give you an idea of the content, and as I say, there's a lot of information in this book, guys, so if you're a cat lover, you're going to love this. So chapter 1, as an example, cat deities and feminine mystique. So Bast, the mother of all cats, bewitchment with Bast, Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess, protection magic with Sekhmet, Egyptian days, Diana, Dionysus and Aridia, calling on Diana to bless your cat magic, Freya, the mistress of cats, and thank goddess it's Freya day, the feline mystique. Chapter 2, elemental, feline folklore and divination, and then she covers all the elements with that, and then she covers spirits as well, which is known as the magician's cat, the magician cat spell, the characteristics, your colourful cats, divination magic using clairvoyancy with your cats, the leave it to the cat spell, and the cat's paw tarot spread. And then chapter 3 has cat magic, candle spells and astrology. So a cleansing and protective ritual, a cleansing potion, a protection potion, candle spells and your cats, candle burning guide for cat magic, the Halloween cat, Seon night spell, cat zodiac signs, an elemental personality list for your cat, the year of the cat, the power and energy of cats. And then chapter 4, feline power animals. So this lists all the different ones. So it goes from domestic cat to tiger, lion, leopard, cheetah, black panther, cougar, mountain lion, lynx and bobcat. And then she gives you some meditations, exercises, ways to work with those animals and some spells. And then in chapter 5 she labels it the feline familiar. So connecting with your cat, psychic contact, speaking to them, eye contact, the mind to theirs, enchanting their food, feng shui and your friendly familiar, the guardian feline familiar, cat guardian anti-nightmare spell, celebrating the cat familiar, bejeweling and bewitching a cat collar, a kitten blessing, fairies, familiars and kittens, the fairy and familiar kitten spell, tips and tricks for working with your feline familiar. So that was the chapter in particular that helped me build a connection with my cat and work with her magically. And then chapter 6 was charms and spells for your cat. And then the next one after that was cat magic journaling, and there was lots of information, facts, tips and tricks for that as well. And then there's an acknowledgements and a index as well. So like I said, there's loads of information in this. This is such a busy, interesting book. And then the chapters kind of have nice kind of imagery like that of the cats as well. So I definitely enjoyed this book. It was really interesting, really full of some great information. And if you have a cat like I did, it worked wonders for me. It helped me utilise her in my craft, recognise when she was giving me signs and symbols, and I became a lot more connected to her as well. So this was definitely a book I enjoyed. I would score this pretty high as well. This would probably be, 9 or a 10 out of 10 if I'm honest. Elena Dugan is a fantastic writer. She's one of my all-time favourites. Every book I've ever read by her has been phenomenal. She always packs her books full of information. She's always very informative. Every book is really simple to understand. She doesn't go too far above and beyond what what you need to know. She doesn't overcomplicate things, and she gives you lots of different reading material so you can go on and progress in a certain area that she talks about. So I love that about her. So yeah, probably 9 or a 10 out of 10, guys. So the next book, again, it's another one that I really enjoyed, and I do highly recommend this book. So this is called Magical Beasts, and it looks like that. So this is all about harnessing animals for magic, and this actually gives you spells, incantations, and rituals, and different methods for working animals into your magic. And again, this is a book I really enjoyed. Chapter-wise, this is packed with information as well. So you get an introduction, and then you get the Arc of Magic, Earth Child, Pet Therapy, Cat's Eyes, Wolf Cult, Horsepower, Woodland Ways, Creatures of the Night, Healing Waters, Feathered Friends, Animal Miscellany, Familiar Fantasy, Here Be Dragons, Animal Attributes, an Afterthought, and an Index. So, like I said, there's a lot of information in this book, guys. And one of the things I love about her is she gives you incantations and chants to use to work alongside your animals. So just as an example here, so let's see, let's see, so one of my favourite spells, I love a spell, this is great. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, who screams and runs in fright? Who's afraid of the big bad wolf that stalks my foe this night? I am no victim of attack, so this is now my game. I send a wolf out from my pack. Who will my enemy tame? So mote it be. So, I mean, that's a really powerful spell, guys. That's really, even rolling off my tongue, I can feel it. It's a really, really interesting spell to say. And, again, wolves are like one of my main animals. I work with wolves quite a lot, and there's a lot of information in this book for working with wolves. There's entire chapters on animals. There's one on horses. Woodland Ways covers things like the stag, rabbits, badgers, foxes, things like that, moles, so all sorts of different interesting creatures. Creatures of the night is things like bats, for example, rats, what else have we got here? You've got healing waters, so you've got dolphins, whales, seahorses. So there's loads of information, loads of different animals you can work with. It doesn't by any means cover nearly as much as this one. This one literally has, nearly every animal I can think of. But this one is the main animals you're most likely to work with, the most common ones that people want to work with in their craft and utilise or call upon. For example, we know lions are a symbol of bravery. We know tigers are a symbol, of courage. The elephants are a symbol of wisdom, or they have really good memories, so they're good ones to incorporate in mind magic. We know that dogs are loyal, so loyalty. We know wolves are very family orientated. We know bears are very motherly. So there's lots of things about animals that we know and recognise, that we see, that this utilises and teaches you how to use spells and those animals in your spells. So I love that one. If you want to incorporate animal magic and animals into your spellcraft, into your craft on a larger scale, and not just cast a spell for the sake of it, but actually incorporate utilise traits and attributes of an animal, this teaches you how to do that, and it's a fab book. Again, I would score this pretty high, but because it lacks in certain animals and it could have been a lot bigger, I'm gonna give it about a 8 out of 10, I would say. Maybe a 7, but yeah, another good one, guys. So the next book I want to talk to you about is called Animal Magick, and it's by DJ Conway. And again, DJ Conway she's one of my favourite writers. I've got a lot of books by her, and this was my very first book on Animal Magick, and she covers quite a lot in this book, and actually to this day I still have things sticking out of it. I still refer to it quite a lot. It's a fantastic book. So it looks like that. I believe now it has a new cover, but that's what you're looking for, guys. And again, this covers a lot of information. So just to read you the back, it says, learn the 2 ways to attract a familiar, explore the various kinds of familiars and find which works best with you, follow your familiar into the other world realms to new sources of information and understanding, explore the spiritual aspects of animals with the first book to present familiars from a European pagan viewpoint, connect with your familiar through chants, rituals and meditations, increase your magical powers with the presence of your familiar, listen to a familiar for inspiration, discover your own shamanic path, empower rituals and divination, gain powerful vision through shape-shifting, recognise the protective behaviour of your animal and take comfort in a friend for life. So this was a great book for unleashing your powers when it came to animal magic and incorporating them in your craft. I mean, again, this comes with lots of pictures in it and doodles, lots of information, and she gives you incantations as well. So the animal I'm looking at the moment, as an example, is the antelope. And the little chant she gives you to call upon the antelope's power is: swift-footed antelope, teach me survival instincts, make me aware of intuitive warnings, let the aggressors be brought low by his or her own actions, dispel his or her power to harm others, show me the path to safety, peace and harmony. So not rhyming, but nice and simple, words of power and intent. And if you're focusing on all the right things, you'll be able to incorporate effigies of these animals on your altar and use these incantations that she gives you to boost your spells and power and incorporate the animal's essence into your magic. One of the things she gives you as well is she gives you a fantasy section towards the back, covering things from dragons, unicorns and fairies to griffins, the sphinx, the wyvern, winged bull. So there's a few mythical creatures in there. Now there isn't as many mythical creatures in this as another book I have, and again this is also by DJ Conway. I'll quickly show it you, and it's this one. So I tended to use these two in conjunction. I got them together. So this one covered more animals with a little bit of the mythical type, and then this covered all of your mythical beasts and how to incorporate them in your magic and call upon them. So these two books in conjunction worked really well together. We're not doing a video on mythical creatures, which is why I'm not really getting into this one too much, but I just wanted to show you that there was two books by the same writer that worked well together, where you could utilise both the information for your magic and expand your knowledge. So for the Animal Magick one, based on its content and the information, I would probably score it again pretty high because it's a really well written book, so probably, you know, around an 8 out of 10. So as an example of what's contained within, so you've got familiars and humans, how to attract your familiar, legends and deities, animal familiars and animal magic, meditations for meeting your animals and shape-shifting meditations. Then there's a list of meditations and rituals as well. Animal allies are fur, feather, fin and scale. And it starts off with the cat family, goes into the wolf family, land creatures, birds and winged creatures, amphibians and reptiles, aquatic creatures, spiders and insects, and then a little bit on mythical creatures, as I said. And then it does give you an appendix and an index to refer to as well. And then a lot of the information in this, while it's not spells and rituals like this one was, what this does do though is it gives you a lot of information on the background of the animal, the different beliefs around the world surrounding that animal, how we came to know, for example, that lion, it represents bravery, you know, why is that, you know, who suddenly decided that. This gives you all of that, gives you all that background information, talks to you about the different cults and cultures all around the world, why they worship certain animals, why certain animals are revered or sacred or feared. So, you know, that was really interesting information. I really enjoyed that about this book, and I say she does give you a little incantation that you can say in order to work with the animal, and she gives you lots of information at the beginning of the book for setting up altars, incorporating animals in your magic, saving and storing things from animals as gifts as well, and how to use them in your magic as well. But she doesn't give you any rituals or actual spells in this. It's more about working with the animal itself, and then after that you have to incorporate that animal into your craft on your own. But it's a great starting point, guys. So, as I say, 8 out of 10. Now there's two books here by the exact same author, and they go pretty much hand in hand, so I'm going to kind of do them together. So these are both by Ted Andrews, and again, he was a fantastic writer. I read his books from cover to cover, really enjoyed them. He's really good at what he does. And again, you know, as you can tell, I've got sticky notes sticking out. So this one's called Animal Speak, and it looks like that. And again, this was a fab book, the spiritual and magical powers of creatures great and small. So in this one, he focuses a lot on shamanism, and all the information in the book is pretty from a shaman point of view. So shamanism is something you want to get into. This gives you a good starting point by using Animal Magick. So some of the information contained within: identify, meet and attune to your spirit animals, Discover the hidden powers and significance of yourself as reflected by your animal totem. Find out the medicine or power and spiritual significance of more than 100 different animals, birds, insects and reptiles contained within. Call upon the protective powers of your animal totem. Learn 4 techniques for understanding the language of birds. Create and use 5 magical animal rites, including shape-shifting and sacred dance. Learn the significance and exotic language of reptiles and insects. Read the omens and messages from nature. Learn the 4 primary lessons of predator and prey. And enjoy accounts of authors' own animal encounters. So I've got to say, his techniques were a bit bizarre when I read this book. Don't laugh. But one of the things that I did from this book on his instruction was when he was talking about really getting into the mind of the animal and incorporating the animal into your life, he really wanted you to understand the animal from its viewpoint. So one of the animals that I was exploring at the time was a snake. So, you know, during this chapter, he actually encouraged you to try and get in the mind of the animal and act like the animal. Yeah, and you can imagine where this went. So as I was thinking about the snake at the time and working with the snake, I ended up getting on the floor and trying to slither around on the floor. Now, I was young when I did this. I've owned this book since I was about 15, 16 years old. So I was still quite young when I tried this. But in actual fact, when he was asking me, you know, to do this in the book and to really incorporate the animal and get into the mind of the animal, understand their viewpoint, their perspective, what they go through, that was really quite interesting. There was also things about the animal when I was doing it that I would never have comprehended if I hadn't have done these very bizarre, strange things. And trust me, the snake wasn't the only one that I did weird things. You know, there was a monkey situation at one point, and again, I'll leave that to your imagination, but there were some really interesting, funny things. If someone walked in and saw you doing these things, they'd probably think, what on earth are you doing? So I do recommend, if you're going to try a lot of the techniques from his book, to be completely alone, in a locked room maybe, so you don't look like a complete fool or an idiot if someone walks in and takes the mick out of you, because actually I think if people had walked in and saw me doing what I was doing, they'd think I was weird. He doesn't get you doing anything dangerous, nothing like that. He just asks you to kind of think about the animal a little bit, and you know, he does recommend a few things. For example, so he says, you know, if you're a monkey, why not, you know, try and scratch your own head, you know, eat a banana the way they would, open it the way they would, you know, try and figure out puzzles the way they would. So there's a few interesting techniques in this book, and they were all a little bit odd and very out there, but they actually did help me. And this is one of the first books that I had that really helped me get into Animal Magic and understand it and really enjoy it. And I really liked the shaman perspective in the book as well. So the content, because what I read to you before was the back, so the content I'll kind of read out to you, gives you an example of the chapters. So chapter 1, symbols in the natural world. So the spiritual and the magical roles of nature, awakening to your spirit totems, the mystery and magic of predator and prey, reading signs and omens in nature. Chapter 2, bird totems and the initiation of air, working with bird medicine, the mystery of feathers and flight, feather magic, dictionary of bird totems. Chapter 3 is honouring animal totems, animal rights and the dictionary of animal totems. And then chapter 4 was insight into the world of insects, dictionary of insect totems, the magic of the reptile world, dictionary of reptile totems, and totems in the civilised world. And then he gives you more information and recommends reading lists as well. So that was that one. And then, as I say, because I'm going to try and score them together, there's this one by him as well. So as I say, we'll do a video on shapeshifting at a separate date. It'll probably be the third video I do. Again, this is one I refer to quite a lot. So shapeshifting is something that you're all really interested in. This was a fantastic book on doing that, guys, and it took me a long time to work through it. It wasn't something easy to do. There were stages, and I actually always thought that the act of shape-shifting was more about physically changing your appearance, and while he does say there are stages and techniques to be able to do that, such as, you know, changing your eye colour and the animal sort of coming out from within and taking over, he also talks to you about the lesser stages that are known, so things like taking on attributes or qualities, personality traits from that animal, so you can actually call upon, say, the speed of the cheetah as and when you need it, you know, the eyesight of the hawk. And there was lots of information for how to do that, lots of techniques that you had to try and work through, lots of meditations for connecting to that animal. And some of the information he gives, as I say, it was super interesting, guys. I do recommend reading through it if you're interested in learning shape-shifting. But this is by far the one and only book that I have read on shape-shifting that actually worked, I actually enjoyed, and there were so many techniques in it that I mean, like I said, you can see all the sticky notes I've got in it. I got completely enrolled in this book. It was so fascinating to read. He's such a good writer, and he always packs his books with lots of information, so what you pay for the books, it's not a waste. I mean, on the back of this, it says $22.95 in dollars, so I think I paid about 16 quid for it. So, you know, in regards, it's quite an expensive book, but it was worth every penny, guys. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic book. It really helped me learn shape-shifting. It really helped me develop my skills. It awakened my interest in learning about my heritage as well. It turns out I have an Indian heritage, connected to Native American Indians. I'm part of that bloodline, and I actually did a lot of research into that, found my ancestors in history, how they escaped persecution, which led me to learning more about Native American culture, which eventually led me back to shape-shifting and working with animals and respecting nature, and that led me back to this book, which ended up, you know, making me read it all over again with completely new perspective. So there was a couple of times I've gone through this book and really enjoyed it, so again, I recommend it. But just to give you an idea of the content of this one compared to the other one, so again, this is quite a big book, so I'm not going to read you everything, but I will kind of, you know, go through it. So, table of contents, you have sacred metamorphosis, so the truth about shapeshifting, the basic principles, the forgotten key, the magical body and weaver glamour, shifting the veil, becoming the dream walker, so shapeshifting and the dream time, dream walking and dream totems, the art of shapeshifting, so the power of imitation, so this is where we learned how to get into the mind of the animal and do very crazy things, shapeshifting and spirit masks, sacred journeys, shapeshifting and the alchemy of mystery, magic of shapeshifting, and then there's a massive section on shapeshifting exercises. So chapter 1, the shapeshifting journal, chapter 2, activating the micronism, the phoenix rising, chapter 3, 2-week enhancer, sun and moon forces, chapter 4, the dancer's pose, creating the magical body, assumption of the god form, chapter 5, magical spirit cloth, Tibetan walk to nowhere, metamorphosis and the touch of invisibility. Chapter 6, Dream Tantra, the rite of dream passage. Chapter 7, Tale of master and the pupil. Chapter 8, Riding through time, spirit contact and astral travel. Chapter 9, Becoming an owl, dance of the unicorn. Chapter 10, Simple raven and owl masks. Chapter 11, Shapeshifting and psychic protection, power of the predator and prey. Chapter 12, Sex and the sacred beasts. And that's kind of all of it, to be honest, guys, but that's a lot of information. It's a lot of meditations, it's a lot of exercises to try and sink your teeth into, and again, it gives you lots of really cool pictures and imagery throughout the book, lots of things to focus and work on. He also gives you examples of how you should stand, all the different poses and techniques. He recommends them, talks to you why you should do them, why they're important. A lot of the poses in this book are actually him. So that's actually Ted Andrews as well. So he gives you the poses himself. He shows you that he's done these crazy things that he recommends, why he recommends them, what he discovered when he was doing them, and so on and so forth. And I could go on forever about these books, to be honest, guys, because there's so much information in them. He even goes through, like, you know, crystals that are important to consider adding to your collection and why. Talks to you about, you know, all the different influences of herbs and plants, talks to you about the roots and things that he recommends getting and trying, gives you concoctions, he gives you things like that, so he gives you symbolism, ritual formats to try. So there's a lot of information in this book, just absolutely packed full. And then this is another one he gives you, so techniques where incorporates martial arts. So he's showing you different positions for the hand and the movement and why this is important. So he just gives you so much information in his books. So, as I say, these for me, I mean, without a doubt, 10 out of 10 for both of them. Absolutely loved them. Recommend them 100%, guys. And you will not be disappointed, honestly. If you really want to get into animal magic and shapeshifting, these are it. This is like the king of all books when it comes to this subject. So, definitely recommend it. Give it a go. And if anybody buys them and, you know, goes through them, tries the techniques, then don't let me be the only one that's silly and saying I slithered on the floor like a snake. Let me know what animal you connected to, let me know, you know, what crazy things you did, and, you know, I won't feel so silly then, guys. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I do hope that this has helped you choose a few books from the collection that you might like to add to yours and consider broaden your horizons on Animal Magic. As I say, I will do a separate video on how I connected to my animals and how I discovered my totems and all the different types that are out there. But a lot of this information again is in ones like this, guys, so you might not need to watch that if you're planning to do this for yourself. And actually I recommend that you work through the books yourself and don't just watch the video on its own. You know, compare notes from what I've learned and everything and what I've gotten from these books, and try them for yourself, and you might discover some things that I've maybe forgotten about when I first did the books, or that I've not considered, which would be nice, and you can tell me. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, give me that important thumbs up. Don't forget to click subscribe so you'll know when my next video is coming out. And if you have any questions about Animal Magick or some of the books that I have here, pop them in the comments below and I'll get to you as soon as I can. If you don't already know, in the description there's lots of information for my Twitter, my Instagram, my Patreon and my Facebook, so please feel free to use those to find me on all of those. You'll find on my Facebook and Instagram I give you lots of sneak peeks into my spells, my rituals and my magical workings, and you can see how I incorporate animal magic into that, as well as deities, gods and goddesses, mythical creatures, and how I work my magic. So it's a nice little tidbit for you there. You can also book my services through Patreon, and for you guys out there that choose to support my channel, it's cheaper for you to book me through Patreon than any of my other services or pages. But if you'd like to follow me on all of those as well, then that would be great. Thank you very much, guys. Do appreciate all your support. Love you loads. Be good to each other, and I'll see you soon. Blessed be.